to Chairman Rosen here in Midland and thank you to Will Haler for the invitation to be here with you this morning. It is great to be in Midland. This is the second time that I've been here, and it's great to be back. And, you know, I should first say that I'm the Congressman. I'm Joaquin. I have a twin brother, Julian, who is the mayor of San Antonio. So I'm not the mayor of San Antonio. My brother, some of you may have watched the Democratic National Convention in 2012. My brother gave the keynote speech. I tell people I had the easy part. I spoke for 2 minutes to introduce him. He gave a 20-minute speech. And for the longest time, I told people that there were two ways to tell us apart, a quick way and an easy way. And the quick way is that for several years, my brother was very blessed. He had a great wife, Erica, who was a public school teacher, and a beautiful daughter, Karina, who's now 5. And I wasn't married yet. And so for a few years, the easy way was to look at our hand, and he had a wedding ring and I didn't. That was the quick way. The easy way, and the only way now to tell us apart, is that I'm a lot better looking than him. I told my brother that I was coming out here, and he sends his regards, and I understand he's going to be in Odessa later this summer. But, you know, I'm excited to be here, and as Will said, I wanted to visit places in Texas that we don't think of as Democratic strongholds right away. I mean, let's be honest. I was in Lubbock yesterday. I was in Midland. Often, if you look at countywide results, Republicans will get 70% of the vote, or 2/3 of the vote. But that doesn't mean, and I've said this over and over to people in South Texas, that doesn't mean that we should give up on these places. Because there are a lot of hardworking, good people who want to change their own counties, and we ought to help them do that. And that's the reason that I'm here today. And the fact is, the Democratic Party in this country stands for the things that are going to continue to make America great. See, I believe, and all of us get asked at one time or another, well, why are you a Democrat? Especially if you live in a very Republican town. Why are you a Democrat? What do Democrats even stand for, right? They say Republicans stand for low taxes, low regulation, letting you do your own thing. But what do Democrats stand for? And my answer is this. As Democrats, we stand for building an infrastructure of opportunity in this nation that will allow people to pursue their American dreams. You see, I think that there are 3 fundamental values that have made this country great. The first one is freedom, the fact that we are a free people. I represent San Antonio, Texas. Once upon a time, we had 5 military bases. Now we have 3. It is a city where many parents have sent sons and daughters off to war, never to see them come home. Like Midland and many communities throughout our country and our state, the people of San Antonio understand the high price of freedom. So we are a free people. Because we're a free people, we get to elect our representatives. We get to pick who represents us at City Hall, in the state legislature in Austin, and up in Washington, D.C. And if we don't like the way they're representing us anymore, we also have a chance to kick them out and change who represents us. Because that's important too. But then finally, and this is where I believe the main difference between Republicans and Democrats exists today. You see, freedom and democracy, those first 2 values, have a purpose. Think about this for a second. You think about when Republicans talk about freedom, what they usually mean is, just leave me the hell alone, right? I just don't want to be bothered by anything. I have no sense of community responsibility. But think about, ask yourself whether that's really the definition of freedom as we understand it in America, right? Technically, any of us could be free if we were living off in a desert or a jungle or a rainforest. We could be free on our own, unbothered by anyone. But that is not what has made this nation great. And that's not the definition of freedom as we understand it in America. In America, freedom and democracy have a purpose. That is to allow us to live in a society of opportunity. The way we do that, and the way we've done it for generations, is by building an infrastructure of opportunity. And just as there is a system of streets and roads and highways and infrastructure of transportation that helps all of us get to where we want to go on the road, the beauty of America is that there's an infrastructure of opportunity that enables each of us to get to where we want to go in life. And it includes certain things. Great public schools and universities, a strong healthcare system, including the Affordable Care Act, to make sure that we have more people insured, especially when we live in the state that has the highest percentage of people in the nation that have absolutely no health care coverage. And by the way, it's time for Governor Perry and the Republican legislature to expand Medicaid in Texas. public schools and universities, a strong healthcare system, and an economy that's built around well-paying jobs, so that when people put in a hard day's work, as millions of Texans do each day, they can support themselves and their family members. And in this country, that means raising the minimum wage. And that's important for Texas because we are the state in the nation, the second highest state in the nation, with the second highest percentage of minimum wage jobs of any state in the nation. I think Idaho is ahead of us. We're second. So raising that minimum wage actually means something. But those are the fundamental values that have made this nation great. And that's the America that my grandmother came to know when she arrived in this country as a 6-year-old orphan from Mexico. My grandmother came here, and my brother had a chance to tell a little bit of this story. She came here with her younger sister, who was 4, because both their parents had died around the time of the Mexican Revolution. My grandmother came and lived in a household at various times of 8, 9, and 10 people with extended family members. And she never made it past the 4th grade. Like many people in her generation, she never graduated from high school. Because of that, she worked her entire adult life, and even before being an adult, as a maid, a babysitter, and a cook. My grandmother did every single thing that she could to get by for herself and to build a better life for her only child, who was my mom, Rosie. And my mom and my dad were the first in their family to go to college, and they did the same thing for my brother and I. And the reason that we share that story with you is not because we think that story is special, but because I believe that is the story of so many Texans and so many Americans. And it's not just a Mexican-American story. That is a story of the Irish who came here, and the Germans, and the Asian Americans. And it's also the story of African Americans who prevailed over slavery and Jim Crow and segregation and have been making their way up towards the American dream. That is the story of America. And that's the America that we must preserve. The problem is that America is under attack by the Republican ideology that prevails today, the Tea Party ideology that prevails today. The fact is, the main difference, as I mentioned, is that those folks want to dismantle the society of opportunity that we've built up. Look, if you don't want to fund Pell Grants to make it easier and student loans to make it easier for students to go to college and get a degree, then you're making it harder for people to realize their American dreams. If you don't want to support SBA loans so that an entrepreneur can take out a loan and open a business, then you're making it harder for people to achieve the American dream. If you can't support fair pay legislation so that when women work, they get paid the same as men for equal work, then you're making it harder for women to support their families. That's the Republican Party of today. It's no longer the party of Abraham Lincoln or even of Ronald Reagan. For God's sake, Ronald Reagan passed immigration reform. They won't even consider it today. So we're hoping in Congress that they'll work with us on many of these issues. But there's not much evidence that they're willing to do that. And so we've got to spread the message about which party best represents Texas values and American values. And the strongest tool that we have to do that, and the best weapon that we have to do that, is all of you and all of the work that you're doing in Midland and in your own cities. I know there are folks, there's from Fort Stockton and a few other places, Ector County, all of the work that you're doing to change things. And I know it's tough. I know that every November you hope for better results sometimes, and Democrats still post at around 30% or just over it. But I want to tell you that you shouldn't give up hope, that you should keep the faith, and that change is coming. That it's not going to happen overnight, and I think everybody understands that, but it will happen slowly, and then it will pick up. And there will be a point, I think, where the state will switch, and once it switches, it will switch very quickly. And we will have a Democratic majority again in the state legislature. We will be able to elect statewide office holders. And if we all do our work right this November, then we will wake up the morning, or actually we'll be up that night on election night, and we'll be watching Fox News. We will watch Fox News, and on Fox News they will say that Texas has elected for the first time in 20 years Democrats to statewide office, and Wednesday. So thank you for every single thing that y'all are doing. Please keep at it. Let people know. Block walk, phone bank, email. Do everything that you can to make sure people know what we stand for, because we stand for the values that have made this nation great. Let them know what we stand for. Let them know that they don't have to automatically be a Republican. You know, part of my concern, quite frankly, is that there are many folks growing up here who see Republicans in power in all the offices. You know, the Latino community that in South Texas and other places is so Democratic, grows up in a Midland or a Lubbock or somewhere else, and instead of seeing Democrats, they see Republicans in office. And so then, you know, they think, oh, well, you know, these are the folks in power, and there's a seduction to being in power. There are resources that people in power can use to entice others to support them, regardless of what their ideology is. And Republicans have been good at that. But we have to fight back against that. And we have to point out that they've gotten more and more extreme. You all know, for example, that the guy that they're going to nominate for Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, he's going to beat David Newhurst, all right? He's going to win that race, right? This man talked about immigrants bringing leprosy, and third world diseases to Texas, okay? This is somebody who said that there is an illegal invasion from Mexico to Texas. This is not your run-of-the-mill Republican. The fact is, this is no longer an exception. You know, 20 years ago, this person would have been considered crazy, right? Now, he is just your average Republican.
But he's still crazy.
But he's still crazy. Greg Abbott, their Attorney General, now running for governor, was somebody hanging around with Ted Nugent, who admitted to sexual predatory crimes. Yet this is a man who staked his career on being tough on crime. He's somebody who can't even say when he's asked that he would support equal pay and fair pay for women. I mean, these are the folks that you're electing to run one of the most diverse states in the nation. You know, we got to change things. We have to change things for ourselves, but also for our kids. You know, I'm a recent father. I have a 3-month-old daughter, Andrea. I finally convinced somebody to marry me last year. And so we have to change things for our state, because that's not the state that we are. Those people don't represent average Texans. The fact is, in 2010, we had the lowest voter turnout of any state in the nation. We even had lower voter turnout than I think than D.C. or Puerto Rico. We were literally 51st if you rank all the territories and everybody. Okay? So the fact is, this has been a mostly non-voting state. If the people of Texas actually came out to vote, these folks would not be in office. These folks would not be in office. All right? So it's our job to get out there and motivate them to do it. So please, when you can, however you can, help the party do its job. The local party, the state party. And I want to thank Will Haler. You know, we have a Democratic Party that is stronger than it's been in the last 2 decades. When Will started last year, they had 3 or 4 people on staff. Now they have 38. So between the Texas Democratic Party, Battleground Texas, the Texas Organizing Project, and all of the individual candidates, and all of the good people in all of our cities, we're going to turn this thing around. Please keep the faith, keep believing, and doing everything you can to do it. Thank you all very much.